I'm Susan Ruttenberg. I've been teaching here for a long time, and one of the things I do is direct the Externship Clinical program. I also teach in it, and my co-presenter today is Susanna Ronowitz, who also wears several hats. She's the Associate Dean who's in charge of Law Career Services, a very important place for you to get to know if you don't already. And she also teaches in the externship program. She and Lee Ornetta teach the Judicial Externship program. So we're going to talk today briefly about finding a way to put your money where your mouth is, to put yourself in a position to learn by doing, and incidentally, to satisfy the requirements that you take at least 3 units of experiential learning before you graduate from the school. So first of all, how many of you are 1Ls? Do I have all 1Ls? Anybody in this group who's 2L? Couple, okay. And then we have a group of 2 and 3Ls over here who are our experts. Okay. So before you graduate, you have to earn 3 units of experiential learning. Many students earn many more. The option is to take anywhere from 3 to 13 units of clinic before you graduate. And some students, rarely, but some do, earn 13 all in one fell swoop by taking a full semester to do a full-time externship, a full-time judicial or a full-time legal. Those have to be approved, but they are a possibility. The ways to satisfy this requirement are, you could do one of our on-site clinics. We used to call them in-house clinics, but if we do that, then we have to call the externship clinics out-house, and we don't like that term, so now we've changed it to on-site. We have 3 wonderful community-centric clinics. The Women's Employment Rights Clinic, you don't have to be a woman to take it, and it doesn't just work on women's issues, but it's an employment law clinic for people without access to higher-priced lawyers. If you do that work, you're directly supervised by experienced lawyers. You work on real cases, you meet real clients, you litigate real cases. The Environmental Law and Justice Clinic is another wonderful award-winning Golden Gate clinic where students work on issues of toxic pollution in the community right here. And our clients are often community groups, and it has been a terrific resource for the community as well as for students who learn how to litigate complex environmental cases. We also have a tax pro bono clinic. And for this clinic, you will help real people with real tax questions, and you will be supervised by a real tax lawyer, so you won't be given bad advice. So those are our 3 options for on-site clinics. But we have a much broader array of opportunities for you in the community. What is an externship clinic? An externship clinic is a partnership between the law school, a community-based agency or law firm or judicial chamber, and the student. So you have an instructor here at the law school. You take a course, you enroll in a course, and you attend a seminar that accompanies that course. And you find yourself a placement that is approved by me or by someone else here at the law school. These are some of the options for externship clinics. And we don't have representatives from all of these here today. So the spillover, if you're interested in a field and we don't have a student to match up with it, I'll be happy to talk with you about that clinic. But here are this is just a general list of possibilities. Every semester we offer the Civil Litigation Field Placement Clinic, the Criminal Litigation Clinic, and the Judicial Externship Program. So if you're interested in those broad fields and you want to do it summer, fall, or spring, that's an option. Some of these others on the list are only offered 1 semester a year, and you have to check the schedule for that. A couple of these are community partnerships where you don't have to go out and find a placement, you just enroll in the course. The Homeless Advocacy Clinic and the Capital Post-Conviction Defense Clinic are clinics where you're working at an office here in San Francisco. CAP, California Appellate Project, works on only death penalty cases. They're right across the street on 2nd and Mission. They have beautiful offices with great views. And you will be working directly under the supervision of a very experienced capital criminal defense lawyer. and you can do that for clinic credit. So again, for that clinic, you don't need to find a job exactly. You need to apply for the clinic, and you do need to contact the instructor, and that's how you enroll in that clinic. For the consumer clinic, we started that one a couple of years ago so that evening students would have an option, but it's open to everyone. That's a partnership with the Bar Association of San Francisco, because they hold clinics, pro bono free clinics for community people, potential clients who come in with a problem related to consumer debt or consumer needing some advice as a consumer, and an experienced lawyer teaches that clinic and will be your supervisor at the Bar Association's offices where the clinics are held in the evenings, and one Saturday a month. So that's a specialized clinic that you don't need to, where you don't actually need to go out and find yourself a job. When are you eligible to do one of these clinics? Well, all of you are going to successfully complete your first year of law school. I know that, I can tell by looking at you. You all look so smart. And you're eligible to do a clinic this coming summer. Not a judicial externship clinic this summer after your first year, not for credit anyway, but any of the others that you are eligible as soon as you've completed that first year. We urge you to take evidence as soon as possible if you're thinking about doing a clinic in the summer or in the fall of your 2L year, because evidence is really a key course to have under your belt or be enrolled in simultaneously while you're working, certainly for a judge or for a law firm, because most issues that law students need to research have something to do with whether a piece of evidence is admissible or not. In order to get credit for working outside of the school, you have to find an approved placement, and Suzanne will walk you through the process on how to do that. You have to put together an application and a resume. You have to enroll in and attend the seminar, and you have to decide how many units you want to take this clinic for, how it fits into your schedule, and again, the range is from 2 or really 3 up to 13. You have to plan your schedule so that you work 45 hours per unit at your placement and also attend the seminar. You have to write journals about your experience, and you have to complete evaluation forms, as does your supervisor. What is the value of learning by doing while you're in law school? I think maybe I'll call on some of my former my externship experience students to answer that question. What is the value of doing an externship? Yes.
I had an externship with the TSA, Transportation Security Administration, and just a couple months ago I was working on writing a motion for summary judgment, and I had to go through a report of investigation and pull out information from like at least 4 different sources and synthesize it. And guess what? Now I'm in appellate advocacy, and I'm working on my statement of facts, and I'm pulling information from 3 different sources.
Practical application, I guess that's one way we could say it. Christy, how would you describe the value of doing an externship?
I would say the value of doing an externship, I think for me, was putting into practice the theory, what we learn every day here, but in context of a client. So in my externship experiences, I had a lot of client interaction, and so it makes really, the value was it made real what we were learning and how it actually impacts someone who is on the other end of whatever that law is. So that was the value.
Okay. But I'm just going to do that sample right now, because the rest of you are going to speak individually after Suzanne takes the students who are interested in doing an externship clinic through the process of finding a placement. Suzanne?
So Law Career Services is here to help you find your placement. So with the exception of those 2 externship clinics that have a placement already attached to it, we will work with you just like we would for any other job or internship. So the same services and resources, resume and cover letter advice, helping you prepare for interviews, all of it, even thinking about where do you want to apply, all of that comes within what we would provide at Law Career Services. It's helpful when trying to look for a placement to have some starting point in the universe. So certainly look at our job listings, because sometimes, quite often actually, we will get announcements from organizations who are looking for externs. Sometimes they won't identify it as such. They may just say we're looking for a student to work in our office for the summer. But if you drill down and you look in their announcement, you will see if it's unpaid or they're looking for a student to earn academic credit for this experience. That's what we're talking about here. The ABA has a rule where you cannot earn money and earn academic credit for the same work experience. So if the employer is prepared to pay and you are prepared to receive money, then that's wonderful. That would not fit within this particular structure of an externship. Sometimes an employer is looking for a student to volunteer and they have never worked with an extern. And so sometimes we might have to educate them a little bit about what might be involved to determine if it's an appropriate placement, and we can help you with that as well. So in addition to looking at the job listings on LCS Online, which I'm hoping by now you all know how to find, here's LCS Online, but if you didn't, it's where it says view job listings. There are a few other places on LCS Online where you can learn about potential externship placements. The first is if you click where it says Browse Employers, and I'll just walk you through this real quick. And then here, you click on More Options, and you'll see there's this little drop-down window that says Practice Area and Clinics. And if you click on that, you'll see the first 10 or so listings correspond to the different externships that we offer. So if you click on Civil Practice, for example, which is kind of our umbrella externship for folks doing civil work, you will find a list of different organizations who have either hosted students in the past for externships or who have expressed an interest in hosting students in the future. So these are folks we've typically had some experience with, had some contact with, and the notion of taking a student for academic credit is something familiar to these organizations. Now, these are not necessarily organizations who are actively looking today for a listing. This is kind of a static database of organizations. So you might want to look here, you can click on the organization, it will take you to a page that has information about their, generally about their office, will usually have contact information, and so if there is an active job listing, it will indicate that here. But this at least gives you an idea of the work that the organization does, and you might decide whether this is an organization you'd like to simply reach out to, send them a cover letter and a resume, and inquire whether they have externship opportunities. So that's the first resource, is looking here at the Browse Employers, right? Practice Areas and Clinics, that's where you would find that. Another really helpful resource on LCS Online are the evaluations that students prepare when they complete their externships. And so that will also give you a clue not only of where students have worked, but what they thought about those placements and what happened at those placements. So if you look over here where it says Browse Student Employer Evaluations, I recommend not adding a whole lot of search fields in here. I would maybe just limit it to California if you're planning to work locally. Hit Submit, and you will see a list of places where students have worked. And if the student is willing to be contacted, they have included their contact information here. Sometimes they would prefer not to be contacted, and that's fine. I don't think you need to read a whole lot into that one way or the other. But you might take a look at just click on the first one, which happens to be the same employer we looked at before. So this tells you when the student worked there, how they found it, through which externship they did the experience, and what the work was like. Was it a good experience? How were they supervised? What kind of assignments did they get? And so it gives you a sense of whether this is interesting. If you'd like to learn more, you might then reach out to this particular student, send them an email to say, oh, I read your evaluation, I'm thinking about applying for that organization, I have a few more questions, could I chat with you? And more often than not, you'll find students are friendly, because you're all friendly, and I would imagine you would do the same thing for students in the future. And so that's a really good resource, and we've seen where the student who's the former extern has provided some very valuable information to the prospective intern, like make sure when you come in for the interview, you don't do this, this, or that, or make sure you mention this, this, or that, because that's what my supervisor prefers. So that can be very helpful insight as you go on those interviews. So as I said, and I think as Professor Repberg suggested, you are not limited to these organizations where we have posted students in the past. So if you have a relationship with an employer, or you have a dream employer and we just happen to not have had prior contact with them, they might be eligible for this process, but you would want to consult with Professor Repberg first, or you could check in with us at LCS and we can help determine whether this is an appropriate placement. We might reach out to that organization to make sure they understand what our expectations are. We want to make sure it's an academic experience that is worthy of the academic credit that you're earning from the experience. And so we'd want to have that conversation with the organization, maybe provide some information to them so that they understand what commitment we're asking them to make. But that's worked out really well in the past for some students, so you don't need to be limited to this universe. We have brought some resources over here, so make sure before you leave you pick up some of the handouts. I brought some information about the Judicial Externship Clinic, I guess we would call it. Professor Repberg mentioned that as 1Ls, you're not eligible to earn academic credit for a judicial externship during your first summer. And that's because the law school requires you to have at least 40 units before you're eligible to earn credit to volunteer for a judge.
I think we've changed that to 3 semesters of law school instead of 4.
3 semesters of law school, right?
Yeah, same thing.
But that doesn't mean you're not eligible to volunteer for a judge this summer, and there are many judges who are happy to take first-year law students as volunteers in their chambers. If that is something that is interesting to you, please come and meet with me or Lee Ornetta as soon as possible. The courts are starting to get applications from students, and we want to make sure that you are prepared for that, you know how to identify those opportunities, and you know how to present yourself effectively for those opportunities. And so there's some information about the program there and about our other externships.
Just a couple things I forgot to say. One is, what is the value of taking a course instead of just going off and working for someone, especially since you have to pay tuition to enroll in an externship clinic? Well, there's a whole theory of pedagogy around this, but it basically can be explained pretty easily. We help you learn from your experience. In your externship clinic class, you're in a seminar with other students who are working in the same field of law, and you will hear their perspectives, and you will have a guided discussion with your instructor, who's generally someone experienced in the particular field of law. Guest speakers are brought in. Sometimes in the criminal litigation clinic, we always do it, which I've been teaching for many years, we always do a field trip to Delancey Street, which is an alternative to incarceration, to open students' eyes to a different way of looking at the criminal justice system. We see films and have discussions in class. Students write journals about ethical issues that come up in their placements, and we have in-depth discussions to help work through those things. We brainstorm with each other how to make the most out of the experience. And it's really been an invaluable assist. If you work in a place and you have no prior legal work experience, you really don't know what to expect or how you are supposed to be treated. When you're working in a place as part of an externship clinic, you have an instructor and a law school that has your back and makes sure you're not being exploited, but instead you're being mentored. If you're working for pay, the boss can say, I need you to do this, with very little explanation, and that's it, and you're not going to get necessarily an excellent relationship and a supervision and someone who will serve as a reference and a future mentor for you in your career. When you have an externship supervisor, that's what we're aiming for. So that's the rationale for why we do this as a clinical course instead of just encouraging you to go out and work for free.
Yeah, and I also have seen with employers that they take you more seriously. If you're a volunteer, they don't necessarily take you as seriously, or they don't honor your commitment as much. They may not make the same commitment to you. But when you're doing this through an externship program for academic credit, we notice the assignments get a little bit better, the feedback gets better, the supervision gets better, they include you more. Everyone takes this experience a little bit more seriously. And We've seen that with students where maybe one semester they volunteered and then the next semester they enrolled in the externship and decided to formalize that relationship, and they really saw a difference in the way that they were treated and the assignments that they were given. So it is, it's worthwhile to do it.
And a lot of our students in the CRIM clinic, we use the same placements over and over again, so you don't necessarily have to do a complete search at LCS. We have a handout that lists, you know, any public defender office, any DA office, any U.S. attorney or federal defender, adult, juvenile, state, federal. All of those offices have intern programs and traditionally have taken students from Golden Gate almost every semester. Question?
Yeah, so if we wanted to do a summer externship, we would sign up for a seminar and do that along with it.
Yes.
And so what if the externship we're looking at was not in the Bay Area?
We do have a provision for doing things outside the Bay Area. You do enroll in a course here. It's called Legal Clinic, so that you can get credit, and you will have an individual meeting before you leave, and you'll write journals, and there'll be email or Skype communication over the semester. It is possible. We do prefer, if you can wait on that you do one of our clinics here first, so you get the benefit of the live experience. But if it's an approved placement, it's okay. Yes?
Do you have to approve the place first, or how does the process work?
If it's on this list and we've had students there before, you can just go ahead and get the job and notify us about it in your application. Every student must fill out a clinic application and attach a resume. If it's a brand new placement and you want to work there, it's not on the list, yes, I need to approve it. Okay, shall we turn this over to our...
Yeah, so here's how the next phase of this session will work, and kind of for the remainder of our time together. As Professor Repper mentioned, we have students, 2Ls and 3Ls, who have already served in a variety of our externships. And so we're going to ask them to stand near their corresponding sign, if you say put signs up around the room, to correspond to our different externship courses. Real estate's tucked around the corner. Anyway, oh no, it's over there. Anyway, so they're around the room, find the sign, and then I encourage you to wander around the room to chat with those students. I'll be standing near the Judicial. Professor Repper, I imagine, will be a criminal. And you can ask us questions. You can ask the students about where they worked, what they found the value to be, if they have tips or guidance for you. And then please make sure before you leave that you've signed in and that you grab some of the handouts.
And please come see me. I have office hours every week. And if the office hour times don't work for you, just call me and we'll make up a different time. I want to be available to you. And I look forward to getting to all of you. Okay, thank you to our visitors.